enterprise shift. I would request all the panelists to please take their seats on the podium. Thank you, everyone. We're delighted to have Sumit Kapoor from KPMG India as the moderator for today's session. Sumit is a partner with KPMG India and also serves as Chief of Staff to the CEO, where Sumit drives strategic, operational, and cultural transformation across the firm. With over 15 years of experience, Sumit has led countless impactful initiatives in strategy and business transformation across telecom, tech, and fintech sectors. We look forward to your guidance, Sumit, in steering today's discussion and drawing out insights on how 5G is influencing enterprise transformation.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the panelists. I'm sure we'll introduce ourselves before we start and put in a perspective. But I think today, more importantly, the debate is around 5G. In my mind, it is about looking beyond the debate. It's focusing on solutions, on what we can through this panel or through the forum of IMC can leave with industry to think about. Across the world, 5G is transforming industries. We know about healthcare, we know about IoT, but essentially, story is a little bit more complex. There's a bit of hype, there's a bit of reality. So let's unravel a little bit of, those, what's hype versus what's reality. In India, paradox is a bit striking. Everybody, like a Jerry Maguire, is asking, show me the money. So where is the ROI? That's something that we should be talking about. And of course, the road to success or road to tech transformation of any sort, especially in terms of 5G enterprise, goes through collaboration. So on that note, let me start with Deep and just to understand everybody's org perspective first. For a couple of minutes, please introduce yourself and your organization, Deep, before you go, and then I'll have a couple of follow-up questions, and we'll take the conversation forward.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Deep, Director in ACC Group in Vividian Technology. So Vividian is based out Manesar, India. We have 13 offices across globe. We are basically ODM, the original design manufacturing partners for our OEMs. We are around 12,000 employee family right now. We started our journey in 2007 as an engineering partner for our OEMs. And in late, after a decade, in 2015, we started our manufacturing houses. We have 2 manufacturing houses. One is in Manesar. We have 9 factories across Manesar. Then another we started in Polachi, where we recently launched a 100-acre area where we are planning a silicon fab and the battery, the next gen things. So I belong to the telecom group, so I lead the engineering and R&D on the servers, AI servers, radio side. So we have more than 30 SKUs of radio. We are designing open-end servers. We are more into the Wi-Fi, where we are doing a lot of Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 5 kind of product. We are building the SDRs. So multiple product we are building. So our booth is here only in hall number 1, booth 1. Please visit it and see the product, real product, which we are building from India, correct, for the globe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deep. Fandi, your perspective on 5G and a little bit about Ookla.
Thank you, Sumit. Hello everyone. My name is Effendi Johan. I am the industry analyst from Ookla. First time here in IMC. So I'm based out of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Let me just ask, show of hands, how many of you have ever done speed tests before? I'm sure everyone has at least done speed tests once. So Ookla is the company responsible for speed tests. So we do have, there's millions of tests being done globally every day. So we sit on billions of data points. So these data points are being used by a lot of regulators, operators around the world to benchmark or understand their network performance and benchmark it with their competitors. And I think as what I like to believe, also like being used by a lot of the industry leaders, analysts, and regulators as a trustworthy point in terms of understanding the user experience when it comes to connectivity. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Fandi. Sal?
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Salil Khanna. I head the enterprise business operations in Reliance Jio. So I'm sure both Reliance Jio as well as 5G need no introduction. India has seen, what Jio has done to India as a country and how we have enabled India to leapfrog from a digital dark ages into a, complete digital transformation. And yes, now is the time of 5G in the enterprise. 5G in consumer space, we have already seen that last 2 years, India achieved the fastest growing network of 5G. We have around 220 million of customers using 5G. And we are also, the largest home broadband segment powered on 5G. So on the consumer side, on the impact on the society in creating the digital backbone for the nation, it's already there. And yes, now is the time for 5G to fuel the enterprise growth. And that's where, I'm sure over next few quarters, along with all the partners, we will see a lot of transformation coming. We'll see a lot of use cases getting into maturity, getting into commercial viability, and making an impact on the society as well as enterprises.
Thanks, Salil. Piyush?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Piyush, and I lead pre-sales and solutions at Technotree. Technotree Corporation, it's a Finnish company. We incorporated in 1978, headquartered in Finland. We are a public listed company. And the core experience is in telecom domain, primarily on the OSS, BSS side of solutions. And it's a very incredible journey. I'll say, like, we are running right now in 47th year of our, since we actually incorporated. And mainly, we are serving customers across the globe. We have seen the solution ranging from value-added services to OSS side to the BSS side. And right now, when we are sitting here, actually, we are running multiple transformations across the globe, where we are actually making telcos towards 5G ready, and also the end-to-end journey fulfillment, how it is going to work. So it's a very exciting journey what we are doing. We also started working with certain telcos in India right now. And it's we really look forward this event to help us to make further contribution in this, initiative. Thank you.
Thanks, Piyush. Manoj?
Namaste and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manoj Gurnani. I am from Nokia, working as CTO and Head of Strategy. I'm sure many of you would have used Nokia in your lifetime. Anyone who has not used Nokia phone ever? So you all have.
We don't have Gen Z in the room.
Yes. So Nokia is no longer into handsets. We are out and out now the network OEM, and we power the networks of Airtel, Reliance Jio, Vodafone Idea, BSNL, MTNL, and several other enterprise customers. And our portfolio ranges from radio to optical to IP to fixed networks to core to transmission, and you name everything. So we clearly have the end-to-end portfolio, and we are clear number one in the Indian market. So look forward to the interaction. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have just one panelist missing, which should be there on all panels. That's probably AI. So, well, in absence of that, we should just start. Look, we've got all the relevant industry players on this forum, and probably we should have all the answers. Otherwise, we know where to go. So, Salil, my first question to you. 5G adoption across different sectors looks very, very different. In healthcare, it is different, mining, logistics, and each sector has some good use cases and some not so good use cases. So my question to you is, there is technology in place, there is ecosystem in place. What's the fuel or what's the catalyst that's missing right now to take the 5G enterprise use cases forward?
Sumit, I think 5G is not the end goal. 5G is only a means, it only enables, it is the foundational backbone. And ultimate aim is that how do you digitally transform the businesses, right? Whether it is in government sector, PSUs, private sectors, healthcare, etc., etc. So 5G is one of the foundational components on which the other ecosystems like AI, like cloud, edge compute, right, digital platforms. So these all have to come together and solve certain real industry problems. So if you look at, if you try to have an outside-in perspective. So what is needed? What is any industry, whether it is a manufacturing, let's say logistics, warehouse, what are they looking at? Either they want to reduce the cost, or they want to improve the efficiencies, or they want to improve their margins, or they want to open up new revenue streams. So unless until one of these four aims are met by any solution, you're not going to see a commercial explosion or the scalability of those solutions. And 5G in itself alone cannot solve any of the industry problems, but it's a foundational backbone. So along with 5G, you have to have a cloud coming in, edge compute coming in, AI, ML layers coming in, and the other digital solutions coming in. When all of these come together, then they create an impact on the industry, on whether they do certain processes in a new way and leave the legacy ways, or they open up new revenue streams, or they drastically improve the worker safeties or the other ESG impacts which are there. So we have to look at the holistic picture, and then various industries. You took the name of a healthcare or a retail or logistics, manufacturing, industry 4.0. Every industry is at a certain journey of its own digital transformation. The end goal is digital transformation. The end goal is not 5G adoption. So there are legacy systems, there are various ecosystems involved, and all these ecosystems need to come together to create integration into the legacy systems for the newest digital solutions, and then the scale up will happen. So as you have rightly mentioned, if you look at logistics in India was not, on a digital transformation index is not very high. What is very high? You see banking very high. You see IT, ITS very high. But you don't see the digital index in the manufacturing companies or the logistics or the warehouse management companies or even the healthcare. Not very high. And yes, now is the time where the solutions of these particular industries will mature by the equal participation of all the ecosystem players. And over the next few quarters, you will see India leapfrogging. You see, India has always lagged behind the physical infrastructure, and all the industries which rely on the physical infrastructure to grow their business, they have not been, in the forefront. But now, India suddenly with 4G and 5G, India has leapfrogged what it lacked in the physical infrastructure with a very superior and a contemporary and next-gen digital infrastructure. So all the industries, all the industry verticals, which have started, redesigning their own processes, all the processes to use the complete digital transformation gains, they are certainly now again coming up. And yes, logistics, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, smart factories, they will now very soon start coming up because there are many POCs which have gone through, many use cases have been established in the Indian context. And now is the time for scale up. So it's only a question of time and, joint working between all the ecosystem players to bring India on the top of the digital nations roadmap.
Thank you, Salil. That's lots of insights coming out of that. Manoj, and one thing that I picked up, perhaps is a very catch-22 type of a situation to say, do you enable private, networks and then enable infrastructure, or you develop use cases first and then? So it's a very chicken and egg. But taking an example of China, they've already scaled up 30-odd thousand private 5G networks. What's pushing India behind, or what's keeping us, us behind, and why are we not going, that path, of scaling up those private networks?
Thanks. And I think, Salil, whatever points you made were very pertinent. I think you have to actually start with the basics. China today has got 30,000 private networks. So I'm sure they are doing some things which are absolutely right. 5G came in 2019. And right in that first year of 5G, China came up with this policy paper, which they call it as 5G Industrial Internet, right? And it laid down the entire framework, right from the device system to the network, to the spectrum, to the use cases, to the vertical force, to the workforce enablement. So it covered all the facets. So the first thing which they did was that there was a huge government push. I think that has to be something which India has to emulate. the government push has to be very imperative. And like Salil very rightly mentioned, the productivity and the operational efficiencies and sustainabilities, I think these could be the focus area. I mean, that's the reason. We are not in love with 5G as such. We need 5G to actually bring all these performance improvements and the productivity gains. So that was first. So after the government push, the other thing is to develop the ecosystem. So when you talk about the ecosystem, it covers everything, right from the devices. So to cover that part, I'll again talk about what China did right. They decided to implement 5G private networks in lower 6 gigahertz and the millimeter wave. The beauty was that both these bands were very, very mature bands and the ecosystem was already present. So I mean, that way they really tick the box in terms of the devices, which is one of the key cost component of a 5G private network. Then the spectrum, the way it is allocated is also very cheap there, right? So in terms of the cost, it was very favorable to the enterprises. The term of the spectrum was also very flexible. So you could take it for 1 year, you could take it for 5 years. If your business case wants it, you can go it for 10 years also. So a lot of flexibility also was there. And in terms of the government push, there was their ministry called Ministry of Industry and IT. They were the one who were calling the shots. So Spectrum, Telecom Ministry was not involved. It was out and out the industry, Ministry of Industry, which was doing, all this coordination of spectrum, etc. And they ended up doing almost around 6,000 pilots. So they did the vertical approach, port, for example. So they said, okay, I mean, let me attack ports. They covered all the 10 China ports, right? They started with the beautiful pilot. They got everything, all the ingredients right. And once they had the model ready, they implemented it all across. And the pilots, they were all subsidized by the government. So why I'm sharing this China story is purely because of the reason that these are all doable things and one could easily emulate and try to find the reason. I mean, there's a reason why they were so successful in rolling out the private 5G networks. So, yeah.
Thank you, Manoj. I think that's very insightful, and there are a lot of lessons that one can, learn. But Adeep, let me come to you. In all of this, hardware is a very critical layer as well, right? Now, to unlock low latency, talking about chipsets, right? We are doing, and today also in the morning, Prime Minister, mentioned about promotion of chipsets, semiconductors being produced in India. But where are we realistically? And how is that ecosystem enabling or fueling the 5G adoption in India or further futuristic technologies in India?
So thanks, Sumit. So there are multiple factors where we are already start working on, correct, as we are seeing the market, correct. So one is the VRAN boost. So VRAN boost is the main thing, correct, where we have to achieve the performance, correct, and we have to achieve the ultra low latency, maybe less than millisecond, which is mentioned in the specs, correct. No one we see practically right now, correct. Everyone is claiming, but in reality we don't see it, correct. So a lot of embed antenna has to happen. A lot of things happen on the RF side, which we have to do, correct. We have to think about edge computing. It's happening, but there are a lot of improvisation we are seeing in the edge computing, correct. We have to take UPF for the edge, or we have to do a lot of AI thing there, correct. So a lot of things we can do on the edge computing side. Then another thing we are seeing on the energy efficiency side, everyone is talking, but right now we are not seeing a fruitful solution for that, correct. But yeah, a lot of RIC implementation, different implementation are happening, but it take time, correct. It take couple of years to implement that as per the standards what we design, and there's some modification required in the standard also. So as a VVDN, as we are working very closely with the DOT, we are trying to modify them, help them, correct, how we can make it more better. And lastly, if you ask, correct, most of the things are rotating around the hardware is thermal. Until unless we are not going to solve the thermal problem, we cannot compact the size. So size is also matter more, correct, because if we have a compact size, we can control the thermal, we can control the energy efficiency, we can control the performance, we can control a lot of things around it. correct. So that's
No, makes sense. The Piyush, when we opened, we just mentioned that board, management, shareholders, everybody is talking about yes, all wonderful, but where is the money? Right, put money on the table. Now, what are some innovative ways of partnering um, across the ecosystem that we can solve for or we can think of, which can realistically enable 5G adoption? And especially coming from as being a product company, what are some of the things that you are doing and you have done practically or seen across the world?
So Sumit, I think it's one of the very valid question what we see in this industry when we saw that 5G actually was evolving in last couple of years. There was a very big point that it's going to transform this complete industry and it is going to open new revenue streams. And of course, that was the path where we have seen that when we were working with all the core telco operators and they defined their strategy that where they want to go in next 5 years or 10 years with the 5G technology. So there were a lot of investment that has been done on the network side. And since, as Salil mentioned, it's an ecosystem. So we being part of this ecosystem where we are playing mainly for how we can improve the customer experience, how we can brought in exactly to the customer side, also how we can monetize in terms of the values what is going to come. So there have been a lot of improvements, or I'll say that technology innovation has been done in softwares also, the products also, which is going to support it. Ultimately, as it's an ecosystem which really need to work hand to hand in terms of all the verticals, all the components, be it we talk about infra, be it we talk about the customers who need to really want to get the benefit of this. If we talk about spectrum, and it's a complete joint proposition what it basically go and deliver value. What we have seen that there are a lot of POCs, lot of use cases were running by telcos, and it really not too much got matured, except few of them which has been really generated value in Europe. I'll say we talk about some very far Asia Pacific markets. It really actually stuck right now at a POC level or not fully has gone into a commercial model. And again, as I mentioned, it's a very high cost, but basically it is happening in this entire ecosystem, which is not able to generate a revenue. So there are multiple ways what telcos are really looking. And now since we have AI also on top of it, which is really bringing a lot more value when we can say that 5G plus AI really is going to differentiate. So there are more and more use cases are getting matured. And as we speak now, we are really seeing that when we talk about logistics, we talk about manufacturing industry, we talk about healthcare, there has been a lot of work has been done. And I think there will be soon scenarios will be coming where we can generate new revenue. It is going to have a more ROI driven, which can differentiate. And again, each and every stakeholder or each and every ecosystem player will be able to add more and more values based on this new technology innovation, what we see.
Yeah, Piyush, ultimately it's about value generation, isn't it? So,
Absolutely.
how are you generating value, and it's not a zero-sum game, either for the industry or for the ecosystem players. Andy, coming to you, you asked how many people use Ookla. Not many in India. We've got good internet speeds, so people don't have to use it. But then, in your analysis, Andy, how do you see as global benchmark, global comparison in India? Are we ready for enterprise-grade speeds? Because once you start using 5G, you really can't go back because you're using it for the ultra-low latency and for the benefits that it brings. So what are you seeing in terms of industry trends? And I hope it's not all gloom and doom.
No. Well, first of all, we need to get more users of speed tests in India. I think that's mainly the first challenge. Well, I think it's safe to say globally what we've seen is that 5G already achieved scale. I think, obviously, there's a large part of the markets in the world are already on 5G. And so the initial deployment stage is over. I think now it's not just about talking about speeds. I think it's just talking about, it's how do you monetize, how do you get more out of the network that has been built. And I think to start off, I think we're talking about India. I think I love referencing India because I think India is an amazing use case in all the markets in Asia Pacific, because there's no other markets like India. I think having the fastest 5G deployment in the world, I think speaks for itself. In terms of performance and what we see in India, I think if I look at my data from the first half of 2025, I think the median download speed for India is around 200 megabits per second. So obviously it was much higher before, but I think naturally as the network becomes more mature, as you get more adoption, the network will taper down. I think this is normal for any markets. But I think one thing that's interesting for India is if we look at 5G availability, where for Ookla what that means is that the percentage of times where users are connected to 5G, India is around 60%. So that's actually a very high number of 5G availability in India, right? So what this means, I think, from the consumer side, there's really a lot of push in terms of, I think, efficient spectrum usage, the efficient use of low band and mid band, as well. I think one thing that's great for India is having affordable devices as well. That's Jio as well as pushing their own devices. So this has helped with 5G availability. But on the enterprise side, I think this sets up a very good foundation. But I think what we've seen is when you want to move into enterprise, I think there's a lot more challenges that we need to address. I think Salil mentioned, I think we've seen, not just in India, I think anywhere else in the market, there's a lot of POCs that are being happening for enterprise, but not many of those POCs are actually being converted. Because I think there's still a few issues that needs to be resolved. One, if you think about it, a lot of these enterprise and a lot of these businesses, just don't want, it's not about faster internet, right? So what they want is actually a reliable internet, especially when you have very high important applications that's running. So I think things that you need to address, even though 5G promises low latency, but I think you need to make sure that the latency is low all the time. So we talk about jitter, we measure jitter. So high jitter is not good when you're talking about automation or very critical applications that require instantaneous reaction. So that's one. And secondly, I think also is a lot of the networks that we've seen when it comes to 5G is very download focused. It's not this, when you see the upload speeds are much, much lower. So I think in enterprises, there is a requirement when you have high definition videos, remote monitoring, you do need a bit bigger bandwidth for upload. So that's one of the challenges as well. And I think finally, again, quoting Salil, is for enterprises, they require network isolation. I think having an end-to-end independent network is critical. I was at even much smaller than this, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, talking to the engineers from Petronas, which is an oil and gas company in Malaysia. So they were one of the first private 5G adopters in the country. And I think his message was really clear. I think one is that to integrate your private 5G networks with their legacy system and all the other remote sensors that they currently use is a big challenge on top of the cost. So I think these are some of the things that still need to be addressed, not just in India. I think it's the whole industry in itself when it comes to enterprise 5G, private 5G networks. So, and I think this is where things like collaboration between the operators, between the hardware makers comes in place.
Thank you so much, Fandi and Salil. Now everybody is quoting you, so let me come back to you. We know that operations can happen remotely and doctors sitting in whichever country can operate in whichever country, but they don't. Everything stays at POC because what if, right? Now that what if question has to be solved with trust. And in my understanding, the currency, on which future 5G enterprises would operate at trust. And that trust can only come from operators. So let's hear from you on, what are you doing, from an operator point of view? How are you building that trust factor so that those POCs go to conclusion and actually become defining products and legacies?
Sumit, you see, my take on this is that if the question is how enterprise will adopt to 5G and how it will become a solid business case for the operators, before that it has to become a solid business case for the users, right? For the enterprises, it has to be, they have to see value and they have to see either improvement in efficiency or reduction in cost or, opening up new revenue streams. These are the only 3-4 things which any enterprise will look at. Manoj spoke about private 5G networks in China. My personal belief, private 5G networks is not what India will excel at. Yes, there will be private 5G networks, but I think India as a country will innovate and use the network slice feature of the 5G networks to give equivalent of private 5G at a fraction of a cost. So there are large big boys of the industry which will either go in for private 5G network or they will get to use another variant of enterprise slices or network slices of 5G. But I think that's not where the real money lies. The real money lies in addressing the millions of small and medium enterprises, small and medium businesses. How do you enable them to become digitally transformed at the cost that they can afford? Whenever any operator or a group of people, of operators, system integrators, cloud and AI players, etc., startups, they come together and solve this problem, which is focusing on how do I make millions of my SMBs more productive, more efficient, compete with the large scale counterparts in their own industry. I think that's where the scales will tilt. And that's what we are very strongly working on by having rolled out a standalone 5G network first of all, then having the capability of having demonstrated the capability of creating network slices within our own 5G band and then running a home broadband service on that, and now the enterprise broadband services on that. So I think that's where the mantra lies. And on India's path towards 5 trillion economy or becoming a fully developed nation by 2047, I think these are the things which will definitely come into play, and this is where the path to progress will go from.
Thank you, Salil. I think very, very valid point. Our MSMEs or SMBs, a large part of economy depends on that. And as Indians, we love to sweat our assets. So Manoj, my question to you is then, if the legacy continues in India, right, nobody wants to just throw away the systems, they want to depreciate them fully and fully utilize. How does that integration work? And what can OEMs do to ensure that with that integration, with those assets being fully monetized, India can still scale up, to Salil's point, at least the SMBs, because it doesn't take much to move a needle there.
Sure. I think we have to do the smart way. It's as simple as that. So to begin with, let's try to understand, how is the overall piece looking like in terms of the cost components. You'll be surprised to know that connectivity constitutes only 30 to 35%. So the whole debate actually happens on 5G and Wi-Fi and connectivity, but that is only the 30 to 35% of the overall piece. The rest of the piece sits in the application, SLAs, and the running the private networks. I think that piece also has to be taken into or factored into the overall business scenarios. But if I were the enterprise, the first thing which I'll ask is that, hey, do I really need 5G? So it clearly depends upon my use case. If it's a non-mission critical kind of an application, fine. I mean, my legacy can continue to work because it's cheaper, it is cost effective, it is more productive. Why should I actually just migrate for the heck of it? So it's not needed. But if there are mission critical applications for which security is the key, for which latency is the very important factor, where I cannot tolerate the interference, you have to actually have no choice but to deploy 5G. And that you can do it again depending upon the business requirement. So like Salil said, you can do a slicing kind of a mechanism so that it's very cost effective. I think companies can start to offer various business model. The business model could be as a service kind of a business model. You don't have to build the entire 5G network for the enterprise. So there are several ways. I think once this inertia gets broken, once we have some good successful 50 installations, I think then the scale will pick it up. So I'm pretty confident that that will happen, Sumit.
Thank you, Manoj. My question, Piyush, is very related to that. Look, decent organizations are trying to sell a product. Good organizations, or the ones that leave legacy, are trying to solve problems. Now, how do you function, in your ecosystem to say, yes, connectivity is one thing, a lot depends on orchestration, which Manoj spoke about. How do you put the customer first and help your, let's say, keeping SMBs or larger organizations into picture here? How do you help them keep customer first and think of solutions so then everything else, becomes, or comes on autopilot?
So I think when we talk about the transformation journey, what it started, and when we talk about bringing 5G as part of this transformation, the first and most important thing is like what is the benefit we are going to get out of this moving out of legacy. And I still feel that even there are multiple transformations which are moving towards from legacy to a new edge of solution, moving towards close to 5G network or close to edge, still we are not able to completely move out. And the reason is the core business right now, what it is running well, very well, close to my legacy ecosystem. But there are some problems. As you rightly said, the problems arise when am I able to monetize what exactly running? Am I my revenue monetization solutions like rating, charging, billing, are they really able to bring those real value, real monetization capabilities, which I should be able to tell customer that based on your usage, based on your certain capabilities, what you're looking for, I'm able to give you a flexibility that how I should be monetizing you. So there has been a lot of work which is actually happening, and telcos are very focused, and I'll say that enterprises are also not willing to get a full solution. They're also looking at what it is going to help my problem. Is it on the customer experience side? Am I really not able to offer a bundled product, bundled solution, which should be consisting of all ecosystem players, right, from devices, from connectivity, from different plans, and how I should be able to generate the revenue, and what should be my ROI if I run at a certain scale. So there are distinct, I'll say the stages, what is happening, and telcos are also, or the enterprises are also very carefully selecting that which is going to generate some value for them. And to achieve this, there are ways like it has to be sold in a way of, like we talk about 5G as a service, we talk about it, or we talk about something in revenue share model, or maybe like a collaborative model where as pay as you grow sort of models, that is very important in this. Then only there will be more and more, participation will happen, and more revenue will be getting matured. Because right now we are also not very sure that how the models are getting matured. So this problem has to be solved soon. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Piyush. I think that's a good perspective. And Deep, I think there's a lot of conversation happening on imports, the restrictions that we are all seeing. How do you see indigenous systems really reducing our dependency of importing, let's say, hardware, in a discussion? If we really have to take, make in India to the next level, what is it that we need to do?
So only one answer for this is backward integration. So we have to do lot of backward integration, which is missing in India right now, correct? Lot of OEMs and ODM are taking to the next level. So when I say backward integration, so right now we are doing SMT, correct? We are doing designing, but on the manufacturing side, correct? We have to do die casting, molding, machining, CNC work, correct? Silicon fab is the next thing. Then the take batteries to the next level, correct? So lot of backward integration is missing, correct? VVDN already started, correct? If I say the way we are thinking as a VVDN, we started a lot of backward integration. So we built in-house die casting, sheet metal, molding, complete mechanical, correct? To build a complete mechanical house in-house in India, along with the hardware dependency. Now we are moving to silicon fab also. We are going to build soon the PCBs, correct? Then on top of that, lot of certification related to hardware, correct? Which maybe 3-4 years back we have to go outside India. Now we are doing in India, correct? So there are two things. One is the market is very competitive, correct? We have to save the cost. Another thing is time to the market, correct? So these two are the main factor which if we do the backward integration we can save, and we can hold the import whatever is happening. I'm not saying we can in next couple of years we can take it to 50%, at least we can reduce, correct, to at least 70%. We can reduce 20-30% more, correct? But backward integration is must to do all this stuff.
Thank you, Deep. I think backward integration is one way to look at it. there is obviously, from a policy point of view, and a lot has to change. So maybe just your perspective on what are those policy changes that you think is going to really bring that reform, and at least in technology.
So a lot of policy changes are coming, correct. We are working very closely with a lot of government organization. So the Make in India initiative, lot of incentives we are getting, PLI schemes, correct. So lot of things are happening in India, but still there is a kick is missing, correct, where everyone is working on now. This silicon initiative, correct, the PCB manufacturing in India, correct, going to play a big role, correct, in next 5 to 10 years, correct. Then the battery, correct, right now we don't have that capability which our neighbor countries have on the battery side. That is also going to be game changer for us in next couple of years.
Thank you, Deep. I think that makes a lot of sense. And Fandi, we did speak a little bit about trust, and we touched upon it, and you spoke about a few challenges. Why don't we talk about solutions that, successful countries or where, 5G networks have been deployed and enterprise use cases have been successful. What have they done well? What are those 2 or 3 things that they have done well, and what lessons can India learn?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. I think one, well, if you look at it, for those who have integrated this private 5G networks, especially, because if you look at it, it's a new layer of infrastructure, and you need to integrate it into a legacy system. Where I think we mentioned backward compatibility and all those things. So that itself is a very complex and challenging exercise, and can be very expensive. So having that capability and collaboration between the service providers and the industry verticals, making sure that everything works perfectly from end to end is critical. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've seen is that it's very hard to monitor end-to-end performance, right? When it comes to enterprise, because there's so many moving parts, there's so many components that's coming from different factors. And especially if you're talking about trying to put SLAs to enterprises, to the service providers, so it becomes very, very complex. So I think having the ability to address this and working together between the service providers, the industry verticals, and those who are using the system is very important. So for those who have successful, I think this is where they have done really well. But I think it's not easy, and it's very costly. But I think that it's a necessary step that needs to be done.
Thank you. Fandi, I think then, if we were to summarize, what we just discussed in the last 45 odd minutes, industry needs more questions than answers, for sure, right? We need to ask right questions on what we're trying to solve for. Of course, the ecosystem is all there to enable that, and operators are working, towards building that ecosystem. OEMs are working towards building that ecosystem. Hardware manufacturers are working towards, building that ecosystem. So the circuit is ready. We need the F1 car and a good driver. So I think in search of that, my last question to the group, and if you can reflect, what is that one thing that needs to change so that if you're sitting 5 years from now on the same podium, we are having a very different discussion on 5G, and we're talking about how is 5G a success in India?
I think my pick would be government has to act like a catalyst. And I think one simple idea could be government subsidized pilots. That will infuse a lot of confidence into the verticals. They'll see the proof. And then I think implementation might be easy. So government subsidized pilots, and also getting this spectrum piece quickly sorted out, I think. So I made 2 actually.
Thanks. You stole one from Piyush, I think.
So I feel, I think everybody has worked on their area, their ecosystem player. I think the most important focus is definitely we should be having more public-private partnerships, or private partnerships, private-private partnerships, more, I'll say that enterprise plus vendor partnerships, it has to come. And we should be targeting more, there should be more labs which should allow you to do test more and more scenarios, use cases. There is a huge potential what we are seeing in terms of automotive, in terms of different industries. And I think that is going to really help us to define the path, and also accordingly all the models, whether your monetization model, whether your customer acquisition model, where your fulfillment model, or maybe the running model is going to mature. So I really feel more and more investment has to be done on partnerships, and there should be more focus on government to allow you to test your business scenarios.
Salil?
Yeah, I think I fully agree with Manoj that government has to continue to play the catalyst part of becoming the driver of the transformation, digital transformation of the country. Beyond that, the telecom operators, the system integrators, the cloud players, the AI startups, they all have to come together and innovate. I don't think there is a defined role model anywhere in the world which India can adopt. India has to innovate, find its own solutions at the price points which India can afford. See, we'll find many use cases of private 5G or 5G solutions, but India cannot afford that. So we have to innovate to find our own way of solving problems that India has. And 5 years from now, I think if all these ecosystem players work together with one aim, that there is no defined role model which we can adopt, but we'll have to innovate and create our own business models around 5G solutions, around digital transformation. That will be the big change for India.
Thank you, Salil. Randy?
Well, I think I actually echo the previous speakers. I think what I see, I think we need to move beyond just selling bandwidth. We're actually selling outcomes and solutions. So again, this requires what I've been mentioned before. I think a lot of partnership between all the different industries, sharing the risks between the service providers as well as the vertical industries as well, I think. So this needs to happen, I think, for us to really see a big adoption when it comes to enterprise 5G and for all the different industries look forward into using the 5G technology.
Deep?
So one of the biggest problem which no one is able to answer in India is spectrum, correct? So a lot of discussions are happening with government. So still we don't have a spectrum for the private players or the enterprise solution. The another I see, if government want to support it, and maybe they have to start the government funded pilots, correct? Until unless we are not going to start the pilots, it's not going to kick off in India.
Thanks. So let's just sum up and say that India's problems are unique. India's solutions have to be unique. And the theme for this year is pretty apt: innovate to transform, and probably a sandbox environment, enabled by government or sustainable financing to Indian industries to actually experiment and burn a few rupees to actually get more is what we need. So on that note, thank you so much, everybody. It was a great discussion. I really enjoyed it. Hope you do too. And thank you so much for bringing a great audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. If you could please stay back just a minute, I would request Sumit Kapoor to present everyone with an IMC memento as a token of our gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful insights. Thank you, Sumit, for the excellent moderation.